And everyone, welcome on in. Make yourself at home. Tonight I'm joined by two wonderful people, two very good friends, Cody and Moa, aka Mystery Drams and Swedish Whiskey Girl. I think it was recently I was doing a tasting or watching a tasting with Mr. Colin Dunn of Diageo fame, and he said that flavour pairings, pairing whiskey with food, was like beautiful illustrations to a wonderful story. So we're going to celebrate flavour pairings tonight with 4 different drams and a couple of great flavour pairings that the guys have come up with, and a couple that I've paired with some Fettercairn as well. See lots of people joining us. Hi Daz, hey Cam, hey Shannon. Nice to have you all. There's Murray as well. So without further ado, I will invite the guys on board. Hope you're all well. Hope you've got a glass of something tasty in hand, and we'll share some drams tonight. Good evening.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Yeah, we're good.
Excellent. You look very comfortable. That's good.
Yep, this is where we are most days. Just
Yeah.
here right now.
Nice. And what's been happening today?
Not very much. I've done a YouTube interview, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, besides from that, not a lot.
The usual shenanigans.
Yeah, have you been up to much?
Not a great deal. Just getting ready for tonight. Trying to keep my hands off the wine gums that you've chosen.
Earlier last night. I don't know.
And Cody, what have you been up to?
Absolutely nothing. I've played some Xbox. I made some porridge, which was pretty good. They're the 2 things I've done today so far. So that's all I need to do in a day at the moment. So I'm quite happy with what I've achieved.
And how'd you take your porridge? Sweet or salty?
Today it was sweet. There was honey and banana and some cereal stuff in it as well. It's pretty good actually. A 7.5 out of 10 porridge.
Good man. I'll take those any day. So tell me about your interview you did today.
Well, I did it with Bri, who is the Canadian brand ambassador for Ardbeg and Glenmorangie. And actually someone who I've never met, but we've kind of gotten to become, I would like to say, friends over the last few months through Instagram and just chatting online, which is quite fun. And just kind of chat and just, it's fun talking to people that are really passionate about whiskey.
Yeah, as of course are both of you guys. So tell me a little bit about when it all started. When did you fall in love with whiskey?
Well, about 6 months after I fell in love with him. Telling that story because he doesn't like things like that. But I started working at the Scotch Whisky Experience and then brought home some samples, and then I kind of found one that I actually enjoyed and enjoyed learning through him. So that's how I started. But
yeah,
with your story.
Yeah, I did my end of uni dissertation on whiskey. It was on the relationship between Scotland and whiskey, so how whiskey as a drink has benefited Scotland, but then also how Scotland as a country has benefited whiskey as a drink. And from that, I started working at Scotch Whisky Experience. Still there at the moment, sort of working my way up there. Met Moa pretty much the exact same time I started at Scotch Whisky Experience, and then we just sort of fallen in love with whiskey from there, being involved in a lot of events and things from that.
And have you found it that you've managed to keep it like so it doesn't feel like work? I guess like writing a big piece on sort of Scotland and whiskey. Did you uncover any sort of hidden truths that you didn't like about the industry, or has it remained like a sort of?
I went into that pretty blind. I knew absolutely nothing really about whiskey going into it, so it was kind of fresh information. Really, like the most basic things were new information at the time. So that kind of stopped it from becoming too much of a chore, because pretty much anything I was reading was new at that point.
Yeah, I love it. And so how's it been for you guys sort of during lockdown and things? You must be inundated with like samples and stuff. You discovered some new gems?
Well, I'm happy you can only see this part of the room, because that's an absolute mess. There's just bottles everywhere. and I am waiting for the day I can go to IKEA and buy a new cupboard to store it all in. But it's been good. It's really interesting, and yeah, I think we've been very lucky to be able to try a lot of different whiskies, and I think lately exploring a lot of English whiskies, which is a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah, have you any that stood out the last?
I'm not sure. I had a nice one tonight. It was a Port Glengoyne cask sample, which I had just before this started, and that was really nice actually. Moa has her sort of office room through there with all her little samples. She tries way more than I do, so half the stuff in this house I've not even tried yet, so I get to try new things just by walking into the other room and picking stuff up, which is quite good. It's like having a free bar that she and it's quite enjoyable.
Well, it's been a pleasure having your company in the last few weeks and swapping some drams with you guys as well, because you've introduced me to some amazing little samples as well. But yeah, the Port Glengoyne sounds right up my street.
It was banging. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, nice. Just slightly better than the porridge then.
Yeah, better than the porridge. For a second, I didn't realise what it was, and I was going to put one of the cask samples in the porridge, which I'm glad I didn't, because it wouldn't have carried it, I don't think.
That sounds like one of those sort of holidays where you get overexcited on the first day and decide at breakfast that instead of just orange juice, it's going to be a vodka orange juice, and your coffee's going to be an Irish coffee. Yeah. And then before you know it, you're in your bed again.
3 in the afternoon and never do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spice up the everyday life in lockdown.
Well, so tonight we've got 4 whiskies, and you guys have come up with a couple of wee flavour pairings for a couple of them, and I've got a couple as well. Should we dive into the first one?
Yeah.
Yes. Definitely.
Awesome. So you've kind of you've gone against everything you were taught and mixed grape with grain with this one.
No, it was quite funny because we were talking about this the other day, obviously what pairings we were going to do so we could both prepare them, and obviously you've been kind enough to give us a little box of goodies that we're doing some pairings with, and I was trying some drams at home, and one dram that I've been trying lately, which I really enjoyed, was the Jura Winter Edition.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, maybe I can do a pairing with this, and when I make pairings I usually try to find the flavors that like this inspires me, and I took a nose of the Jura and I was like, do you know what, wine gums. So here we are with Jura Winter Edition and wine gums. Have you ever tried pairing before, Andrew?
I haven't. I've come prepared though, so I'm a big gummy bear fan. So this is my, obviously Instagram flips everything backwards, but if you can read upside down, this is my gummy gorge appreciation t-shirt.
Well, I'm surprised.
But I've never paired wine gums with whiskey, and what I thought was interesting was that wine gums aren't just one flavour, there's a whole heap, so how are we approaching this?
I was like, what colour? Because everyone knows they're different. Do you have a favourite colour?
Do you know what? I've had this glass was much fuller earlier. The white ones, grapefruit. It depends what brand you've gone for, but these are Marks and Spencer's. Nice. And I've got the grapefruit one. I'm going to start with the grapefruit one first, and then I'm going to move on to the whiskey.
Yeah, go for it. I'm going to go for a red.
Okay.
I'll go for an orange one. Why not?
I feel like orange is going to work because, chocolate orange.
Oh, wine gums are great. A little sip of this.
What are they? What is a wine gum? What's in it?
I don't think you want to know.
No, probably. Gelatin or something. Flavouring.
It's a delicious way to start the tasting. How do you find it working?
I find it working quite well. I think what got me thinking of wine gums was this slightly, and I know I'm apologising for my tasting notes in advance because I know they can sound quite outrageous and just crazy, but I have these little voices in my head that tell me things, and that's my tasting notes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what got me thinking of wine gums was that the Jura had this lovely kind of autumn leaves meets a nice dense fruitiness, and I thought it was kind of a, I don't know how to describe it, but slightly almost rubbery fruitiness that I was wine gums. So that's how the thought came to me, and I told Cody about it, and he was like, yeah, why not? So yeah, what do you think?
The orange one worked very well. I think
Yeah.
the sweetness of both paired really nice together, actually. It's quite surprising. Because a lot of time with pairings, you often need something that's going to sit with you a little bit. You know, things like chocolate and cheese and meats and something that will really cling to you. I was worried wine gums would disappear too quick.
Yeah.
But there is a lingering taste with wine gums. I think it's probably because it gets stuck in your teeth and stuff. But there is a lingering taste there, and that's it works really well. It's really nice in the nose, actually, when you're eating it. Go back to the nose.
And what's your thoughts on it?
No, I totally agree. I enjoyed eating them and then smelling the whiskey, and I was just waiting. I was curious if it was going to work. I think it's a really, what would be quite interesting. It's quite a nice tool, I guess, to sort of pick apart little flavors and kind of just diving into the glass. It's like obviously lots of fun as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you love wine gums and you like whiskey, trying the different colors or flavors, whatever you have, and just trying to find out which one you think works the best, because it's totally individual. I would say I've tried the orange one and the red one that we have, which is what they call the Maynards.
Mm-hmm.
And I think out of those two, I thought the red went better with the Jura, but you said you didn't like the orange.
I go for the orange.
Yeah.
The red.
So
I've just gone red there. Really nice. But then I've gone kind of black at the end. One of my headphones just died. Forgot to charge it. The black one at the end was really nice.
yeah, nice. I think what's also nice is that the whiskey isn't too sweet, so it doesn't take over, like you said earlier. It doesn't take over the wine gums, but instead it just makes it a really interesting flavor experiment. And I mean, if you like two good things, then why not try them together?
Exactly. I 100% agree with that. What's your relationship with Jura whiskey in general? I think the red wine cask was maybe one that we spoke about right at the beginning of lockdown when it was first released.
Yeah, I'm still so happy we got to try that one, because it's one of the few whiskies that I find blackcurrant notes in, and blackcurrants are one of my favourite flavours, so I'm very picky with it. So unless I really find it, I won't say that I found it. So it was really lovely. And I think Jura, for me, I haven't had too much of a relationship with it before, but over the last few months, after trying a few more expressions and also having conversations online with people, it seems to be a brand that people either love or hate.
Yeah.
And because of that fact, it almost makes me like them a little bit more, because you kind of, if I like a whiskey and someone else doesn't, I kind of want to be like, but don't you see this? This is why I like it, and why don't you like it? Of course, everyone's free to like whatever they want, but yeah, that's kind of how my relationship with Jura.
Yeah.
The red wine one was great value for money as well. Cause the reason we mentioned it to you is I think it was on offer for, how much was it? It was something pretty good. It might be like
£30 or something.
I think it was less than that. It might be like £22. It was a litre bottle from like Tesco's or Sainsbury's or something.
Yeah.
So it was really value for money, but I'd never really heard of it until I mentioned it to you and you said it was just came out.
Yeah,
It was pretty good. So
I found it one of those that was exactly that. It was total bang for your buck. It was, but tasted delicious. You know, quite often I find that you would expect to sacrifice sort of quality and flavour, but I think those were absolutely delicious. And the winter cask that we're drinking now, I think Tony just asked what we were drinking. So this is the Jura Winter Edition, and it's actually one that I haven't, I've not become very familiar with, if I'm completely honest. So trying it with wine gums tonight's not what I was expecting, but it's a pleasant surprise.
I don't know anything about it. What is it? This is one of the samples that Moa's tried before in the room that I've never tried. So
I see. So the winter edition was, I guess, it was created to give you all the flavors you would expect from that time of year. So it's a sherry cask finish, so you're getting quite a lot of the oak influence as well, coming from the sort of the newer seasoned sherry casks. So you'll get the nuttiness coming from the sherry itself, but also that clovey spice that you would get from seasoned casks, if you will. So that's definitely what I'm picking up on the end. There's lots of spice.
Yeah, what I really like about it is that even though you can taste the wood and the spice there, it doesn't take over. It's definitely, I think I find this with a lot of the Juras as well, which is why it kind of suits me personally. Because at the moment, I'm not a fan of a whiskey that is overly woody, feels overly oaky, or a lot of wood spice. But I think Jura suits me because it's kind of that happy medium where you have the lovely flavors, but they don't dominate. There's still this other lovely character to it.
Yeah, I think it works. I think the name, winter cask gives you a good idea of what you're going to expect from the whiskey. I think it's kind of that time of year, it's pretty spot on. And I think we were talking about earlier about a sort of hot toddy recipe. For me, this would work nicely in a wee hot toddy. Nice bit of spice, some lemon, some ginger.
Apple juice, like hot apple juice, hot toddy, with a little bit of maybe a cinnamon spice or something.
I love it.
It also makes me so happy to see everyone who's tuning in. There's so many many names that I recognise, so it's just great to see.
Absolutely. Welcome in, everyone. I hope you've got a glass of something nice in front of you.
Yeah, let us know if you're sipping along what you're having.
Absolutely. What's your sort of go-to flavour pairing when you're enjoying a dram? Like, is there something you kind of constantly go to, or is it just something that you depends what you've got in?
For food pairings?
Yeah, just like, in general, how do you enjoy your whiskey?
I like meats in whiskey. Big fan of sort of different cuts of meat paired with different drams. It's really, really good. We actually had a tour at the Scotch Whisky Experience called Tasting Tales. And on that, we would have one whiskey with dark chocolate, which works very well, sort of a classic. We'd have one with smoked salmon, which if you had a very light bourbon cask, it was great. And then one with some salami or other cuts of meat, and that one would tend to be my favourites. I really like. We cut meat and then applewood smoked cheddar cheese with a smoky whiskey to finish. And all of those are sort of your classic whiskey pairings, but I do like a good meat cut with whiskey, but chocolate's always a classic. You can't really go wrong with chocolate.
Yeah.
It's probably the easiest one to pair. Some of the other ones you do have to think about a little bit, but chocolate tends to work.
And I think, where it's something so robust that can stand up to big smoky meats and cured salmon and things like that. There's definitely, it's just a whole world of flavour to explore, isn't it?
Yeah, I've always said it would be lovely to kind of have maybe a trip up north, or even host a tasting, or up north in Scotland or up north in Sweden, and then have this when you sit around a bonfire, maybe in winter, and you're dressed all cozy and warm, and then you have drams and then just some local delicacies like meats or cheeses or anything like that, and just like share stories. That just seems like to do, share flavors and like experiences.
Yeah, it'd be nice to hear what you think about this actually, Moa, because and Cody, you'll probably agree that in Scotland, as opposed to Jerez and our partners in the sort of south of Spain, where we get these lovely sherry casks, something that they do incredibly well is, food and drink just come hand in hand. It's like they're a match made in heaven. Yeah, in Scotland, it's like they're two polar opposites. You either go for drinks or you go for food, and they're not really connected, although they really ought to be, I guess. There's so much to sort of explore and enjoy there. How do you feel that is in Sweden?
Well, I think it's a little bit similar to what it is here. I wouldn't say necessarily that the drink and food is that well entwined. I know there's people that are trying to do it, and there's certain restaurants where you can go and there's a kind of pairing menu with drinks and food. But what I would like to see more of is this kind of, maybe if you go for a set menu and you also have like a cocktail or maybe a whiskey or wine, so it's different types of drinks. But it's definitely something I would love to see more of. And we had the wonderful opportunity to try actually a restaurant here in town that did exactly that. So they paired drams with their menu with the whiskey forager.
How was that? I was just going to ask you about that. It looked insane.
It was incredible. It was I don't even know if I can describe it. It was just having someone who knows whiskey and also has a big passion for it, also pair it with food that is just wonderfully cooked and thought through, is an amazing experience. And if anyone's just looking for one of those experiences, I would check him out, because I think he might have something coming up hopefully soon again, because this thing he did over the summer was just a limited kind of run.
Yeah.
There was a lot of drams. I was practically home that night. Probably the most hungover I've seen her all summer was after that. She was curled up on the sofa all day the next day. She was not good.
I was barely alive.
That's something like dealing with or having that sort of stamina throughout a whiskey tasting session. Something that I lost definitely when we first went into lockdown, and we started, our friends and I started having like sort of virtual music festivals together, and of course you're having a virtual music festival. I just went into normal West festival mode and had like a cool box of cider at the bottom of my chair. Like we just watched the same sort of YouTube playlist of like all the bands we were expecting to see at an actual festival, and the hangover the next day was it was pretty special.
Yeah, it's just it's not. Yeah, it's. I mean, we also kind of have to blame ourselves, because we decided it would be a great idea to go for like 2 cask strength drams before it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah.
I think there's a weird split at the moment between people that have drunk way more during lockdown and those that have probably drunk far less.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I've probably drunk less, because I don't go for. I'd like a pint after work. I'd go for a pint or whatever. Whereas I can't really do that now, so I just come home, maybe have a glass of wine or something. But probably overall drunk less than normal. Whereas I know there's some people that are really changed that, and it's probably for the benefit of a lot of brands that people are, instead of just picking up their normal thing, they're trying something different, because they have the opportunity to have it sent to the house or pick it up, and people have tried a lot of things that they probably would never have actually given a go if it hadn't been for lockdown. So it's a good and a bad thing.
Yeah, definitely. I also I'm trying to catch up with the questions here as well, because there's some coming in. If I can't see them, or any of us can see them, just send them again, because we just
yeah, they're coming in quick.
Yeah, someone was asking, well, let me see. What do you like to combine with whiskey besides the usual chocolate or cheese, and besides wine gums?
Well, you have your Swedish fika pairings.
Yeah, so I've been experimenting with flavour. I think you can pair with whatever you want. If there's a flavour that I think the easiest thing to do is identify a dominant flavour in whiskey, and then see what that would go well with, and maybe a dominant flavour in some kind of sub-dominant flavours. So example, if you have a sherried whiskey and you think the dominant thing is raisins, then you're thinking, what would raisins go well with? Well, raisins could go well with something savoury, for example, or like meats, for example, like Cody said earlier, or it could go well with something like a dessert. I'm trying, someone said kanelbulle, and exactly, that's what I'm doing. I'm preparing these kind of Swedish little treats, baking myself, because I think it's quite fun, and then seeing what pairings work with that. The cinnamon buns, the kanelbulle, is a great one, because that has often a lot of cinnamon or cardamom flavours to it. Or sometimes you can add vanilla or marzipan to it, and that's flavours that you could find perhaps in sherry whiskies or fruity whiskies, so you can kind of pair it that way. But I think that the kind of opportunities are endless. I know there's a few that I have some favourites. I like cheese. I mean, it's a classic, but it's a classic for a reason. It works really well.
Yeah.
I think something with pairings is that if you have something that's quite high in fat content, like some meats and some cheeses, it kind of covers your palate, which makes your taste of the alcohol change quite a lot.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of trial and error. I don't know what you would say, Andrew.
We did a Greg's pairing
at
the start of lockdown. So we did a sausage roll, a steak bake, a yum yum, and a donut, I think. All paired to different things. I can't remember what the whiskies were now, but you can pretty much pair it to anything if you give a thought about what the flavours are and the thing you're pairing it with.
Yeah. I think I was going to ask you about the Greg's tasting in a bit, because I mean, where do you start with something like that? It's a pretty big challenge, right?
Yeah.
We want to do an IKEA one. Do you know what you're going to do for that?
Well, I know the foods I'm going to have. I'm going to do some gifflar, it's called. I think they just came to the UK, and you can find them in like Tesco's as well. They're like mini cinnamon swirls or cinnamon buns almost, and
Okay.
have some meatballs. Cody is going to be in this video, and he's going to try some creamed smoked roe, which he's very excited to try, which is one of my favourite things to have on toast in the morning or just on eggs. He's very not excited to try it, but we're gonna do that one.
See, when you said an IKEA pairing, I thought you were going to start pairing like a whiskey with a set of new frames or something.
Well, it's the level of anxiety.
Pair whiskey with anything.
Exactly. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
let it, and I'll do it.
Yeah, do it. I'd love to see it.
Funnels one as well.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you get like something that would go well with like the saltiness of the chips, or something that can go well with like the meatiness of a Big Mac. I think you could do it if you thought about
Maybe
it.
Talisker and fries.
Yeah, maybe.
This is sacrilegious. I feel like people are gonna start thinking I'm insane already, so it's fine.
I'm excited to watch it unfold.
Yeah,
Cool. Shall we move on to the next wee pairing?
definitely.
for it.
Is that
All right.
I'll let you sit and then we'll pour it afterwards.
Okay, so I've got the Fettercairn 12-year-old, and I have this wonderful Fettercairn mango marshmallow, which was produced for me by the Marshmallow Lady in Edinburgh. So if you haven't come across her, give her a visit, because it's I never knew the world of marshmallows had so many levels. But what I wanted to do was to create a whiskey, a flavour pairing that celebrated the sort of tropical fruity character within the Fettercairn whiskies. And at Fettercairn we have these wonderful spirit stills. Maybe I don't know if I can still share this with you. Maybe. How do I do this? No, I thought I could maybe share like the way the stills are, but I can't figure out how to do that. But the spirit stills at Fettercairn are drenched from the outside with cold water, and that was introduced in the 50s. And it means that what we have today is quite a light and tropical fruity style of spirit. I love what you're doing here, by the way. This is good work.
We might end the stream, just so you know.
But bonfiring from home. But the wonderful flavour of the spirit and the way it carries through the whiskies is really, really interesting for me. So the 12-year-old's a nice introduction to that distillery character and that lovely sort of tropical fruit note that comes from the spirit, and the maturation in American white oak. So for me, on the nose, there's just loads of pineapple, mango, maybe a kiwi I'm getting today. Just it changes all the time. But I wanted to prepare it with this marshmallow because I thought it's quite a fun idea. Toasting a marshmallow in front of your guests and doing that sort of bonfire thing together is quite a cool experience. And of course, when you torch the edge of your marshmallow, you'll be smelling it just now, that lovely sort of creme brulee note that you get. So, sip of the whiskey first. And then the marshmallow.
That's so lovely. It works so well. I think I tend to get this kind of pineapple notes from Fettercairn, and I think that kind of sweetness with this kind of mango sweetness in the marshmallow together just makes it really, really lovely.
Yeah, you get a kind of maltiness from the whiskey as well, and then it's obviously a very, very sweet. It's a sweet pairing, but it's not like a whiskey flavored marshmallow. It's more mango there's a little touch of Fettercairn in there, but I was worried that might overpower it. But it's actually really mango forward, and quite light, fluffy.
Yeah, the textures work really well, I think, as well. I don't know if it's the marshmallow that makes the Fettercairn feel slightly more oily.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lovely experience, I think, which is another thing you can think about if you're doing your own pairings at home. It's textures that work well together. So I think if you have something that's really mushy, like Cody's porridge this morning, with whiskey, then it makes a little bit of a weird texture. But if you have something like a marshmallow, then the texture itself is an experience.
I was thinking about sort of how do you pair, or is that sort of campfire moment, you know, like it tends to be the initial thing to think about is something like really heavily peated or really, really smoky. So I thought, how do we create that sort of moment with Fettercairn, which is much lighter and more at the start of your evening, like an aperitif style whiskey. How could we create something that replicated that moment, but in a different way?
Yeah, I mean, it's just fun if you have maybe guests, and instead of serving maybe a glass of bubbly upon arrival, you just have a little dram and something to pair it with. I mean, it just makes for a little bit of a different kind of dinner experience.
Yeah.
I saw that question that just came in, and I was like, I don't know if I'm that skilled of a blender to have any idea what to do with that. Do you?
Absolutely not. I did do
bottle with some of the things we've finished here, and it is terrible.
Well,
really,
whiskey I've ever had.
But it wasn't. Well, it was terrible, and then it wasn't.
Oh yeah, it did get better.
Yeah, it'll change.
It did start bad, extremely bad. It was nice up until the point we put some peated whiskey in there, and then all you tasted was really bad peated whiskey.
I did a lovely tasting with Ali Reynolds, like a Johnny Walker session.
Yeah.
And I think the results showed that you only need like a really small percentage of smoky whiskey, to give it that sort of muscle and structure.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to think. Is there a distillery? Maybe if you have like a favorite one distillery that, for me, the whiskey that got me into actually liking whiskey was Ardbeg. So I'm trying to think if there's a distillery. And he said blended malt, I think, so I'm not allowed to use grain whiskey because I love grain whiskey. But I wonder if there's a characteristics of another distillery that I could put just a touch of into the Ardbeg, or if I could put a touch of the Ardbeg just to get a little bit of a bonfire smoke into something else that I think would be lovely. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I'd combine Fettercairn, Jura, and Tamnavulin. Yeah.
And just shake it up in a bag of wine gums, and then it would be away.
Scotland all together in one fantastic product.
We made when I worked at the whiskey rooms in Edinburgh, we had a house old fashioned, and it was our blended malt was the base, and it was made up of, so it was a Glencadam 15 Portwood was the main component. So it was, if you imagine, it was 4 parts of that to 2 parts Glenfarclas 105 to 1 part Kilchoman Mackay Bay. It was really cool. That was really good.
That does sound dirty.
Yeah, that was our top selling cocktail as well. It was just total nightmare. Probably not very cost effective either, but it tasted delicious.
Yeah. I saw this question that came in. Someone said they have the best smoky ölkorv. Do you know that?
Nope.
Cody's trying to learn Swedish, so we're having a little bit. So ölkorv means like a beer sausage, so like those little ones that you can kind of cut up and you have like as a snack. Not very spicy at all, very smoky. What kind of whiskey do you think would work best with that one?
Ooh.
I mean, I love ölkorv as well. Something that is smoky but not very spicy. I mean, you could go smoke and smoke. Could work really well. Or maybe something quite smooth and quite velvety and kind of indulgent, like a Dalmore maybe, Dalmore 15, because you get a kind of sherry influence and then you also get the smoke, and I think those two together can be this very kind of dark experience.
Well, that's cigar malt, is it not? It's supposed to contrast the smoke rather than be the same thing. It's very fruity. It's very sort of sweet and forward to sort of so that you don't lose the whiskey with the smoke of the cigar. They both are sort of visible on the palate when you have them together.
Absolutely. The cigar malt with like a really high cocoa content, dark chocolate is amazing, but the whiskey really comes into its own when you enjoy it with a cigar, because like you say, it's so bright and like ripe red fruits that just kind of holds up that bitter smoke. Because again, if you went big smoky and a big cigar, it's just, that's going to clash, I think.
It's a lot. I think for me it would work because I love both, like go smoke a hardcore, I'll have it. But also what Tony just said, the Ilsa Bay, which is a sweet kind of smoke, I think that could work really well as well. I mean, it all depends on what you like. I think those are some that you could pair them with. I think fruity would work really well with it. Like you say, you might not want to kind of especially if you're having it before dinner, you kind of don't shock your palate that much. But yeah, I mean, Dalmore 15 or Dalmore cigar malts with Ardcorp, I think, would be a great pairing.
I love it. I love it. I've had bear sausage before.
Nice.
In Finland.
I think so. I think my dad.
Did you have bonfire?
Yeah, I think no, not at the bonfire.
Hmm.
But it'll be his word of the day tomorrow to learn.
Or
There are a few Swedish and like kind of Scotch slang words that are quite similar, right? Like barn, that's a child, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah. And bra.
And hus.
Hus.
Yeah.
All right, so Cody, you'll be fluent already.
It's a hard language. It's the sound. Can't nail it. It's too hard.
Yeah.
You have extra letters.
It's like
You've already
when
got enough letters.
when he asked me to sing the alphabet song, it just sounds a bit weird because like when you go from L and P, it goes Q R S T U V X Y Z O A, and he's like, what are those last things? They're just noises.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. See, he knows that.
That was rubbish. Don't give him.
I think for me it's a little bit more like it's almost a little bit more special, a little bit more fun to pair Swedish flavors with whiskey because it's two things that I really like and it makes me feel a bit nostalgic and quite like I just have such a strong feeling because flavors for me are so strongly entwined with memories and experiences and people. So yeah, I mean if you like something and you like whiskey, pair them.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the next one I have is kind of I don't know. This is for me this was an absolute revelation when I came up with this one. For the Fettercairn 22-year-old. Is that what you have now?
Yeah.
Awesome. Pick up the right glass. So the Fettercairn 22-year-old is delicious. You get a little bit of that sort of Dunnage funk coming in from it being 22 years old, but this was actually recasked after 13 years into fresh bourbon barrels again. So it's a full maturation in ex-bourbon, but re-racked after 13 years into distillery-run bourbon barrels for another 9 years. So it's like loads of sort of freshness and vibrancy, and I get like lots and lots of peach on the nose. So the pairing that I wanted to use was just a glass of peach soda water on the side. So hopefully you have some.
We do. I'm just going to open it.
We went with the Dash peach water, which is there's no sugar in there, so it's not gonna be too sweet. It's actually a nice palate cleanser if you're just enjoying four or five whiskeys in a row. But a little sip of that really cools down the palate. Gives you that lovely sort of peach flavour in your mouth, but without any added sweetness. And then a little sip of the whiskey. And the whiskey's now up at 47%. So the ABV's taken another notch up. So just cooling down the palate with the peach soda, and then a little sip afterwards.
I love this pairing, and something that's even more fun is one of the things I miss the most from Sweden is sparkling water. So it's either Ramlösa or Loka, because they're like this water, they're not sweetened. It's just kind of the natural flavouring and the water.
Yeah.
I've never found anything here with sweeteners in it until now. So thanks, Andrew.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
The peach flavour really explodes as soon as you take a sip of the water, and as soon as you try the whiskey, it kind of just like bursts.
It just lingers on. Lingers on throughout the whiskey, which I absolutely love. And it was funny, I was up at Fettercairn not too long ago, and Stuart Walker's our distillery manager. He's about my height, quite a short guy, he's brilliant. But the brewer, Bruce, is like 7 foot. He's an absolute giant. He's actually the world record hammer thrower in the Highland Games. So if you know how to throw a hammer a very long way, you know this is a big guy. And he was like, "What's this I'm hearing about you making cocktails with the 22-year-olds?" I said, "No." I was like, "It's not really what's happening here, Bruce." I said, "I'm pairing it with peach water." And he comes from a chefing background, so he's all about flavour pairings, and his tasting notes are incredible. So yeah, I thought I was about to get thrown a very long distance, but
he doesn't sound like the kind of person you want to kind of upset.
I think
He's
he's.
Yeah, I believe in you.
Thanks. Cheers. David and Goliath, right?
No, this is it's lovely, and I think someone was asking, that they've never tried Fettercairn. So, what other whiskey would you say it's quite similar to?
Do you know what? So as you both know, I used to work at Lindores Abbey Distillery, and I was there for 2 years, and sort of during that time, I think my palate had kind of changed. Like I used to love an Ardbeg 10 and a half pint of Guinness. That was like my kind of half and half go-to. But sort of through working at Lindores, they were producing a very light style of spirit as well, and I just kind of fell in love with the lighter end of the flavour spectrum. And actually, when I was asked if I was interested in, coming and working with Fettercairn, I kind of refamiliarised myself with the new bottles. And the first time I tried Fettercairn 12-year-old, it reminded me of Glengoyne 10, which is one of my absolute go-tos. I really, really enjoy Glengoyne at a young age. And it just reminded me of that. I just thought this is really easy drinking. It's quite tropical, fruity. You've got lovely sort of vanilla, coconut coming through there as well. So if you like Glengoyne, I would say Fettercairn maybe not a million miles away. Maybe just a little bit more malty, I would say, a little bit more robust.
Yeah, it does have quite a. I do agree with the Glengoyne shit actually, but it does have a unique character, Fettercairn. It is reasonably distinct. It's not one of the distilleries that will be sort of lost into that sort of generic tasting note kind of category. You can probably tell when you have a Fettercairn in your hand. But I do actually agree with that Glengoyne thought, even though I've never really thought about it myself, but having had that wonderful Glengoyne port just before this, which is nearly as good as this 23-year-old. I do agree. I think it does have a similar note to it. It's that sort of weird, robust kind of fruit that you were talking about that really comes through on both the distilleries.
Do you know what? It was weird because I looked at a flavour wheel, and under the category of malty, pineapple is a tasting note that comes under malty. And actually, it makes sense if you think about sort of macerating anything in a sort of a dried pineapple. Then yeah, it has got a kind of malty, quite a big hitting mouthfeel.
I saw that there was another question that came in, and I don't know if I'm the right person to answer because I'm a bit biased towards all Swedish whiskies. I think if you're making a good flavour in Sweden, then I am for sure going to be a big fan of it. So I just wanted to ask you guys, because you're not as biased as me, you might be a little bit, because I don't want to be angry at you. But have you tried any Swedish whiskey? And I think the one he asked about was Mackay. And I think an example of that, didn't you? Yeah, he did. I also had... maybe it's finished now. I had a Mackay, was it an Amarone cask? Yeah.
I'm sure it is somewhere.
But you've tried it anyways.
So. I have, yeah. And then the other one, so one of the last whiskey shows I did was in Stockholm. I was on the Viking line.
Yeah.
And there was another distillery. Is it High Point? Did I just make that up?
Yeah.
That's right.
High Coast,
that's it. Yeah, and I loved it. I have a sort of obsession with the number 63, and they have a bottling. It's like quite heavily peated, I believe.
Yeah, and it's the really nerdy one. It's like they've fermented it for 63 hours. They have it's been matured on the 63rd kind of, what's it called? The latch, like degree thingy.
63 casks when the distiller was 63 years old.
Yeah, something like that.
It's bottled at 63%. There's something else.
It's really a funny release, but I can see how it's a perfect match for you then.
Yeah, exactly. It was my great auntie lived at house number 63 in the town where I grew up, and when she passed away, that number just kept popping up all over the place. Like I'd open a book and it would always open to that page. Just really strange things, and I don't know, like numbers on the front of someone's door was quite symbolic.
Yeah, no, that's fun to hear. I mean, whiskey experience are just always a little bit better when you have some sort of emotional, or you have try whiskey for the first time with a really good friend or in a special occasion, or it's just the memories along with the flavors that just make it so special. Yeah,
one of my best pals is just asking about 63 because he never knew that. But actually, if you watch some of my Instagram videos I created over lockdown, that number pops up in a few of them. It's hidden away. See if you can find it.
So,
But what about you guys? What's your favourite Swedish whiskey? What's the best?
Sorry, say again.
What's your favourite example of a Swedish whiskey?
I'm going to be honest and say I haven't tried that many. I have primarily tried Mackay and High Coast, and I'm a big fan of High Coast and the Mackay Eva, and I think someone else said that as well. It's one of my favourites. It's a whiskey that's been matured in a variety of casks. They've used some birch sap wine casks with that, which is quite fascinating. I think High Coast, one that really just blew my mind was the American Oak, back when the distillery was called the Box Distillery.
Okay.
And lately it's one called Elv, which is a bourbon matured whiskey that I'm just a big fan of, especially for versatile bourbon at the moment, so that really suited what I really like at the moment. So
cool. What about you, Cody?
I quite like the whiskey from Jura, which is kind of one of their standard releases. It's just really estery. It's like as estery as you can get, like just apples and pears for forever, and it's really sweet. And it's one of their easiest, lowest price point whiskies as well. It's quite affordable, and it's really nice. Lovely. Just a really nice, easy drinking whiskey from them. So that's probably the one I'd go to.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff. There's a whole, I mean, it's just another world when you dive into all the amazing things coming out of, single malt whiskies coming from all around the world. And I guess there's slightly different sort of regulations and things like that. So there's a bit more freedom. Is that right?
Yeah, I think in Sweden, as just a whiskey country, they're trying to do a lot of things like using the same kind of restrictions or rules that you have in Scotland. So you have to mature them for at least 3 years. But of course, they have the freedom to maybe use Swedish oak, and they can take. What I really like is that they take a little kind of parts of the culture and put them into the whiskey, like birch sap wine casks, which you couldn't do in Scotland. But it's something. You can try birch wine, you can try sparkling birch wine, which is also lovely. So I think that they take little parts like that, or cloudberry wine casks and lingonberry wine casks.
Mulled wine.
Yeah, mulled wine. So it's nice ways of incorporating kind of the Swedish culture and making it Swedish whiskey instead of mimicking Scottish whiskey, because Scotch whiskey is lovely and it's so classic and has such a lovely history behind it. So you don't really need anyone else to try and be it, because it's so unique and it's so loved for what it is. So if you're making whiskey in another country, what I really like is when you do it your own way, without necessarily sacrificing quality. Because I think a lot of the people that I have met in Sweden and around the world that are also making whiskey, single malt or kind of Scotch-like styles of spirits, they are always so fascinated by making good flavour. So they're not trying to change what whiskey is. They're not trying to make something completely different. They're just trying to make good flavour.
And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, right? It's a drink in a bottle, and it's there to be opened and shared and enjoyed.
Yeah.
I really like this pairing though. I've never had a whiskey and water pairing before, but it actually works pretty well.
I think it's not the most. It's not it's not as exciting as pairing whiskey with wine gums. That's for sure. But it's
the diversity in pairings you can get though. Like I would never have thought of pairing it with water, but the two complement each other really well. It's a really good pairing.
And I like that you're drinking water, or kind of you have to drink water,
because
true. Responsible drinking is great, because I do not
Stops
want
the
to hangover tomorrow.
That's it. Something we should emphasise more often.
Tamnavulin, I wouldn't be surprised if she's halfway through that bottle already. So,
but Nicola, we're meeting you at 11, so we'll be there.
Yeah.
Will you?
Ven.
Coming in.
How do you say Ven? Ven? Spirit of Ven? Ven? Say that again. Vian. Okay.
It's a distillery on the west coast. I haven't actually tried that much spirit from, but they are of course making one of the few rye whiskies in Sweden. So I'll be so curious to try them. Thank you so much for the recommendation. I have to try them soon because they make both rye whiskey and corn whiskey, like we have someone telling us about here. It's funny also to see how it's nice for people to get their local whiskey, because High Coast is of course located quite far up north, and then of course you have Mackay, which is about an hour away from Stockholm by train, and then you have the West Coast distilleries, both Ven and Smögen. So there's a lot of fun things happening, and I mean, just where my parents live, there's a distillery popping up about half an hour away, called Agitator, which are releasing whiskey next year.
Awesome.
So yeah, a lot of fun things happening, and it's nice to have your local distillery that you can kind of support, especially now when it's really important to support your local, which is good to see.
I love that. I just noticed it's actually 8:20, and Instagram's going to kick us off in 10 minutes.
Oh.
So I knew this would happen, but
you're having fun.
Absolutely.
When you have.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure to just chat away with you, to be honest. And you know, as I expected, time has just run away from us.
Yeah. Do you want to go on to the last one, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Lovely.
Over to you.
Yeah. So.
Nicola, you can drink along to this one.
It is a red wine, or specifically French Cabernet Sauvignon cask finished Tamnavulin, which I hadn't heard anything about until I saw it for about £20 in our local co-op. It's about 250 kronor in Sweden, so it's a really good price for a lovely whiskey. I really like it. And just to kind of end it on a classic note, I thought this kind of wine style would just suit some dark chocolate. And not just any dark chocolate, we actually have the chocolate you gave us, which is a vegan dark chocolate. I think it says at 65%, I can't say this word.
ABV?
Cocoa. Yeah. Cocoa nibs? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
So we have that here as well. I'm just going to get a... Do you want to have a sip first?
Stefan's just asking about Nicknean. Like, what do you think of organic whiskies like Nicknean? And I actually have a bottle of their first release here, which I haven't opened yet. And the reason for that is I'm saving it for when Lindor's release their first whiskey. So I have Nicknean, King's Barnes, Lindor's, so I can try them all side by side because they'll all be about the same age. But I love what Nicknean do. I love what they stand for, and I'm sure it's going to be delicious. I've tried their new make, which is great. Not too dissimilar to Lindor's, if I remember rightly. So I'm excited to try the whiskey, and you've tried it. You guys have both tried it.
Yeah, we have, and what I really liked, for me, it had such a nice kind of pine flavour to it. Cool. It feels quite robust and kind of nature-esque, which I also think goes really well with what they're doing. Focusing a lot on sustainability, of course. I haven't tried their botanical spirit yet, but I'm very curious about that one. Have you tried that one?
I'll send some your way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not gin, but it's because, of course, to be gin, you have to be juniper, like, dominant. But they're just taking some kind of local botanics and making botanicals.
Yeah.
Botanicals, yeah.
I guess to that 4 drams in when I can't speak English.
Yeah.
Let me know if you can understand me, and I'll probably go on to Swedish. But yeah, they're doing such fascinating things.
That works really well. It's nice.
I've just totally sabotaged your Tamnavulin chocolate tasting. I'm going to enjoy that now.
Fine.
Good. Yeah, good. Really good, actually. Really nice.
Mm. This makes the whiskey so smooth, and like the flavour get a push because the alcohol feels less burny, even though it's not a whiskey that feels particularly burny.
Yeah.
Yeah, just enhances that, I think.
I think one of my favourite things about Tamnavulin is that it tastes so good, and it's so affordable. And this new collection of the red wine cask finishes, it's not like a red wine cask as you'd expect it. It's not big and bold, and it's not a big rich whiskey. It's actually quite light and quite floral. There's still those apples and pears there, but the sort of the different styles of wine just add that lovely sort of mouthfeel, little bit of little bit of like a velvety sort of texture. It's delicious. And the chocolate's actually a bit of a contrast to that. I would say it's quite, you know, the bitterness of the chocolate and then the sweetness of the whiskey is really lovely.
Yeah, I definitely think this would probably work better with a bitter style of chocolate, but then it's almost the meat halfway. Yeah. And good for vegan chocolate as well. It's yummy. I've not really tried a lot of it before.
Guilt-free. Apart from the wine gums and the marshmallows.
Do you have a favourite pairing of the evening, Andrew? Soon.
The whiskey and chocolate is perfect. It's a great little way to end this run of pairings. But whiskey and wine gums, one, photographed very well. It's so much fun, and it's sort of just a really nice little way of just delving into a bag and enjoying the different flavors with your whiskey. I mean, there's so many different ways you could do that as well.
Yeah, I mean, we should do this again sometime. I'm sure we have a lot to talk about, obviously, because we just kind of kept talking.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'd love to do this again. And then it's nice that we've kind of gone full circle. We started with wine gums, we've ended with red wine cask.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, can we get a wine gum cask somewhere? Surely a country can do it.
Ooh.
Can do it in Sweden.
I don't think they barrel age wine gums yet.
Rubbish.
Would that be
There's a
convincing?
hole in the market.
Although this one says port on it.
Nice.
Oofed.
Well,
There we go. I'll more port in that for next tasting.
Yeah. Okay. Rio's asking for Percy pigs.
yeah.
Yes.
I'll do it for next time. I promise.
I will be the. Wait, hold on. Actually.
But yeah, it's great to see everyone who joined us. Ooh, nice.
Hey.
Yeah. I'll be the first Percy pig ambassador.
But yeah, we'll make that happen next time.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Some great questions, and it's always nice to have some virtual company. But huge thank you to you guys. We'll catch up soon, hopefully.
Yeah, and thanks for having us. It's a great evening.
Yeah.
Just drinking whiskey with someone instead of just in the house.
Next time we'll have to do 2 back to back, so we don't run out of time.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, guys, have a great evening.
Sláinte Skål.
Sláinte Skål.
See you later.
Great to see you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.